Right, Genesis 27 on Sunday. We've got, the fairly quick descent of Isaac. We were chatting about that just before. That Isaac last week, there's a communion with God. He's in relationship with God in a way that seems healthy-ish. But chapter 27, it sort of crumbles down pretty fast, and no one actually looks that great in the end.
Yeah. You've got from establishing a tent, digging a well, worshipping the Lord, to figuring out who gets ownership of the tents in the long run. Strange old thing. Welcome back. It's good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Good to be back.
Anything from your perspective jump out at you from Genesis 27?
Look, it's not a happy passage. I was reading it just before the service on Sunday, and I was like, I don't really know what to do with it because no one is in the right.
Yeah.
Like every single person in this passage has their own kind of deceit and their own sin just like locked in their head. They're all locked in this kind of spiral, which is just, it's a shame because we're so close to Abraham. Like the blessing has just been instilled and now everything's going kaput so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. The passage starts with Isaac's weak eyes are the kind of the subject of the first couple of sentences of the passage. And you go, right, this can't end well. There's kind of a blindness at play. There's a lack of discernment at play. And you go, where are we going in this narrative? No, we're good.
Yep.
Essentially where we're at. I think Isaac fails to see what God's doing in terms of his trajectory. We were chatting before about Rebecca heard God say, the older will serve the younger. You have to presume at some level that Isaac had at least been around, or at least Rebecca had gone and said, no, my favourite kid's going to lord it over your favourite kid. But there's something really interesting in that where it's almost like he's trying to secure blessing for the child who's not going to carry on the promise and where we're heading in the rest of Genesis. But his desire to ensure Esau's blessing doesn't really fit in with kind of where we've been set up for what Isaac's going towards.
Yeah, I just find it curious how, the story so far has been fairly brief at just giving us a hint of the different characters that are the moving parts on the chessboard. With the story in chapter 5 with Esau coming in from hunting, he's got an empty stomach and the dude's hungry. And he's bailing up Jacob to share a meal. And Jacob sort of latches on to the moment to be like, righto, I'll give you my food, you give me your birthright. And so just in a quick sort of narrative, we begin to get little pictures of, Jacob the deceiver, or at least Jacob the proactive one, or the industrious one. He can make the most of a moment and he knows how to swing a bargain. And
Yep, he's nipping at the heels of Esau. An interesting reflection on Genesis 3 connection. Did you want to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking just before about you've got the idea of the son of the woman who will crush the head of the snake and the snake will bite his heel. And I found it so interesting hearing you talk on Sunday about, Jacob means clasping at the heel. And you get that picture as they're in, what chapter are they born? 25. Of Abraham clutching on, sorry, not Abraham, Jacob clutching onto Esau's heel. And then that's kind of brought out in this passage where he is kind of taking on this almost archetype of the snake in which he is deceiving and he's nipping at the heel. And so, that begs the question for me, is Esau going to crush his head? What's the paradigm here? How are we flowing through Genesis?
Yeah.
Like, what does all of that mean?
Yeah. It's where you go, they're clearly children of the promise, but you're like, which promise? Like which line are they coming from their father Abraham, or are they coming from their father the deceiver? There's anyway, this is an interesting play.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's I do find that really interesting how the heel grabber, the tripper upperer, the deceiver is absolutely coloured by deception in this passage, but everyone's covered by deception, right? So, like, Isaac and Esau are trying to sneakily secure a blessing that God has said is destined for Jacob. Yeah. Was he sneaky and getting the birthright in the first place for some soup? Yep, absolutely. Is Esau a bit stupid for what he's entered into that bargain? Yep, absolutely. No worries, no problems there. But then Esau and Jacob are kind of, Esau and Isaac are trying to circumvent the promises of God by human action, which, I mean, that's worked out so well so many times before. Why are they even trying? But I think that's the thing that irks me a little bit. In Rebecca, doesn't confront the issue. She tries to fight deception with other deception. And then Jacob, who you're like, all right, if you are going to carry on the promise, if you are going to continue the line of the Messiah, surely we're going to see some level of integrity and responsible conflict resolution. And you go, nah, okay, Mum, yep, dress me up in dress-ups. Cook my meal for me. Like, it's not, Jacob doesn't cook the meal. He doesn't go and slaughter a couple of goats. He doesn't do anything. He's actually pushed into that space by his mum.
Yeah. Yeah, Rebecca's the agent. Like,
she's the driving force.
She's driving the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, Jacob even sounds initially, looking at verse 11, where, mum says, here's the plan. I overheard Dad saying he's going to bless Esau, so listen to me. But Jacob initially maybe sounds like skeptical, where he's like, my brother Esau's hairy. I've got smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I'll be found out and then I'll bring curse on myself. So he's initially sort of skeptical, but Rebecca, Mum, is sort of going, no, I've got it sorted. Just do what I say.
Yeah. It is interesting that I'll bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you, which is the repetitive pattern of that, which is on the lips of Isaac when he blesses Esau. So I feel like that's a family paradigm. You're like blessing, curse, curse. And so he's terrified of being subject to the curse of Isaac. The curse of
his
Isaac.
dad. I know.
I'll tell you what, just the names flopping through. It's like, oh. But as we push into that space, there's a fear of curse that is clear and obvious. And Rebecca says, don't worry about that. I'll cop the curse. I'll take your place. I'll be the one who's subject to wrath. I was like, it's just an interesting play. He goes, well, in that case, if there's only reward and no consequence, which I feel like is the same way that Esau's treating firstly his birthright, but now the blessing. He's like, well, I don't deserve it anymore. It's not actually something that's destined for me anyway. But if you're willing to give it to me, Isaac, no worries. Let's go there. And again, it's that all reward, no responsibility. There's no consequences. There's only benefit in that particular space. And it's kind of the picture that we continue to see as the Abrahamic covenant unfolds. Is people like, I really want God's blessing, but I don't actually want to take responsibility or agency for what that entails. I don't want to live the life of an obedient servant to God. I do really desperately want the nation name blessing land. I want all the good stuff. Righteousness, it's a bit overrated. Honesty and integrity, I'd rather deception. Let's try and sneak our way through. We know God's going to look after us anyway. Why don't we sweeten the deal even more? Just seems to be that repetitive pattern.
I liked your line. I think you said, happy to take the blessings of the covenant without having any esteem for the covenant whatsoever. And that was a good way of framing what seems to be playing out in the family system. Yeah, the jostling for blessing.
Yeah.
But God is quite absent from this chapter in the sense of who does hold God and his covenant with esteem and honor. It's absent from this chapter.
Yeah. And you're getting all of these different archetypes flowing through with, God, where is God during it? I find it really interesting that you bring up the idea of substitution. That we've been introduced to this really beautiful idea of the penal substitution, which is then carried particularly through the Old Testament and fulfilled in Christ. And we're seeing all of these themes here, and yet it's in this really kind of warped context. Like, this is not a good substitution. What's going on here? Like, where is God?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you've got to look at how it plays out in this narrative, and then flows forward. I kind of want to play with the idea of, let's pretend Rebecca isn't quietly eavesdropping on every conversation that happens in every tent, and Esau does get Isaac's blessing. Is God's sovereign plan for following the line through Jacob thwarted at that point? Well, no, I don't think so. What would the consequences of Esau getting Isaac's blessing at that point? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to play with. No matter how hard humans try to subvert God's plan for his creation, for his mission to ultimately end up with Jesus born in this particular family line, we're going to end up where God wants regardless. And so it's just interesting to play with why mankind's deception or attempt to deceive to try and gain blessing by human means. Why do we keep going down this same path? And we're still going down that same path today. Like deception to try and generate personal blessing via human mechanisms, and trying to circumnavigate God's sovereign plan over his creation, his people, his timing, where he's taking his church, his people, his communities. It's just an interesting thing to play with, because it doesn't make heaps of sense. Isaac, Genesis 22, is strapped down and is 50 centimetres away from death, and God redeems his life by providing a substitute in the ram. And he goes down the hill, probably looking sideways at his dad as he trots on down, going, what on earth was that all about? If his big takeaway from Genesis 22 is not God is in control, God will provide a way and provide his particular desire, whatever that might be, God is not someone to be messed with. I feel like that should have been his big takeaway from Genesis 22. And then we arrive here in 27 and you go, right, what's he trying to do? He's trying to mechanicalise a human outcome that serves his own purposes. He's got visceral muscle memory from where God provides his desires and outcomes. It doesn't make a lot of sense on why Isaac's doing what he's doing. Even a generous reading of Rebecca, you go, hang on a second, God told me that Jacob's the son of the promise. I'm going to defend that. She doesn't defend it. She tries to deceive her way to those particular outcomes.
Yeah.
So I think back to what you said at the beginning, everyone loses.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe just reading the layers of deception that unfold, it probably feels a bit of a stretch. I don't really want to draw a straight line, but just because the heel grabbing thing sounds like Genesis, the blessing curse thing sounds like Genesis 3. the blessing curse reversal stuff sounds like Genesis 3. Even the garments of skin thing have a Genesis 3 shape to it, that Jacob, to cover his nakedness, he's like, I have smooth skin. Rebecca is sort of like, that's okay, I'll cover you with garments of skin. And so Jacob is looking beastly, like Adam and Eve were when they trotted out of the garden. So it's just faint shapes that feel Genesis 3. It might not be explicit. Even the very fact of a wife kind of covering over truth. Even that has an Eve quality to it, where it's sort of, we are kind of back in the garden, but it's not going well. I feel like Genesis 26 did paint for us this garden-like scenario. It's like we're probably instilled with maybe some, there's a turn here where we might be back with God in the garden, but 27 sort of unravels that pretty fast.
And we're really picking up, we're now really picking up Jacob's narrative. So Isaac is quickly going to become irrelevant to the storyline. Even in their trajectory towards Egypt, they're heading west. There's they come out of the garden and they head west because evil tends to come from the east. There's this ongoing unfolding of it's interesting just to look at Genesis as a whole as kind of a garden explored, garden extended, those paradigms. Yeah, I think there's lots to play with there. So
Yeah.
keep having a look at that. I reckon there's something else interesting in the way that Rebecca is trying to pull the string. She's a strategic lady, and right at the end there in 46, where she's like, "Oh, run away from Isaac, not Isaac, run away from Esau, because he wants to kill you. Go safely to my family line. Go back to Laban."
Yeah.
And we'll get to where that's going to go in a couple of weeks. But even that, she's securing in-laws, a wife for her son, away from the Canaanite Hittites, and with the people of the promise, what will become the Israelite nation as we continue. She's shifty, right? She's really strategic in the way that she is not cross-pollinating with the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites. There's just something really interesting playing out of that particular
Which
point.
an Israelite might read that with the lens of like Rebecca had the right instincts. Don't cross like these are nations that become threat to the line of Israel. So there's an instinct there that's probably, and it follows the track that Abraham mapped with with Isaac. Like Isaac and Rebecca were the fruit of that same journey. You know, find a wife for my son from my own people, not here in the land. And the servant of Abraham does sort of go with faith and prayer and like that sort of little shape plays out in a seemingly God-honouring way. This now gets repeated, but it's now shadowed with like this.
I think there's a distinction between go back to our lands and find a child of the promise to marry so that we can perpetuate the children of the promise according to God's plan, rather than run away from the bloke that we aggravated and you will live. Sure, all of my desires will be fulfilled in the fact that will then force you to marry someone over there. I actually think it's right outcome, wrong process. Right destination, wrong journey. And Rebecca, I call it accidental awesome. She gets to the right place by completely accidental means, and she's trying to subvert everything, but it ends up okay in the end. I don't think anyone should be patting themselves on the back after Genesis 27.
Yeah, it feels like a chapter that, for me, I mean, you landed it in that, fertile soil of look at our own hearts and relationships and the spaces that we allow bitterness to surface in our lives and see what it, like Genesis does, sort of, it's the Genesis and all of this stuff that's familiar in our own circles and world and the conflicts that, like, it begins with relationships not set on integrity and honesty and good communication and trusted community where you deal with stuff well. Like the story does seem to highlight just how quickly that sends things down the drain.